This podcast is sponsored by Great White Hot Sauce. It's a small batch, handmade hot sauce made specially for you. So if you like hot sauce, you'll love Great White Hot Sauce. It's the hot sauce that bites back. Find it at www.trygreatwhite.com. Did you know that the great guitarist from ZZ Top, Billy Gibbons, actually has a guitar made from a wooden beam taken from the old home of Muddy Waters? Actually has two of them. Well, if you didn't know, now you know. And on this episode, more freestyle, more mixtape talk. Enjoy the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
The KOFB studio presents Milk Crates and Turntables, a music discussion podcast hosted by Scott McLean with his co-host Jack Calabrese. Now, let's talk music. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the podcast. Got a good show tonight. Like the intro said, I like to refer to these as mixtape episodes. Talk a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Before I start the show, if you like it, share it. Send it around. Tell people about it. If you want to get in contact with us, you can reach us at milkcratesandturntables@gmail.com. If you have any show suggestions, or just want to tell us how we're doing, or criticisms, we're good at taking that. So, without further ado, let me bring on my co-host, the man without a plan, the yoga king, the Jack Calabrese.
Hey! How are you? How's it going, man?
Going good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just listening to your intro in terms of people mailing suggestions and how we doing. Look, you have to admit we're doing pretty good. Do we have a giant, huge audience? Maybe not yet, but I think it's growing little by little. And how many episodes are we in?
27.
Did you think that we would get to 27 episodes?
Well, at first there was a rocky road between you and I with your schedule and trying to get things done, which is understandable since I'm retired and you're not. I always appreciate your dedication to this podcast. I do. I know it's hard sometimes, and Jack works very long hours most days of the week, and he takes 1 hour a week out to, be the co-host. The numbers are steady. We have a steady audience, but yeah, every week it kind of goes just a little bit more. And to
me, that's an ancillary benefit. To me.
Hold on.
Do you hear it?
There it is. I love it. The train. Every episode.
I live on the wrong side of the tracks.
I love it. So you were saying?
What the numbers and all that are great. But, to me, they're secondary to being able to just kind of, reconnect and have goofy conversations. It is, as you said, I do have a lot of hours that I put on a weekly basis, and work can be hard and stressful and all of that. And this is a great escape, and it's a great way to just kind of unwind and have a little bit of fun. So I appreciate it more than you know, and I do make time for it because I value it as much as I do.
Excellent. Like we've said this a number of times over the past 27 episodes, and there's no end in sight as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely not.
We've taken the same discussions that we've had, over the years, whether we were younger. There was a big gap of time where life happened and you and I weren't really in touch with each other. But then we picked it right up where we left off, talking music. Always music. It's always injected into our conversations.
Yeah.
So this podcast gives us an opportunity to do that, to spread some of our what we used to think was useless knowledge, right? And kind of throw it out there.
Scott, I got news for you. It's still pretty useless knowledge.
Okay. Still useless.
So it hasn't, maybe it's not useless. Maybe you got a little hot sauce out of it, but not much beyond that.
And podcasting is somewhat of a grind for most people that do it. I mean, you got to grind out your numbers. You got to put your work in to pick up. There's people that have lightning striking a bottle, like they say, and I always applaud that. I say, if you're doing a podcast, I could never say anything negative about you, but I could say something negative about your podcast. No, I always give people credit. Like I said, podcasting is still relatively new. We're in a very niche market in music discussion, but we're grinding. We're putting out some. I'm happy with the numbers. Every week it gets a little better. So
at the end of the day, who gives a shit? As long as we're having fun, that's all that counts.
Yeah, we're not in it for the money. A lot of podcasters go in it to monetize, and they're always asking questions about how do you monetize, and you and I, fortunately, don't need that. You do podcasting because you love doing it. There's work that goes into it. While you're at work, I'm actually doing work on this. So it works out once a week for an hour that we get to do this. We just got joined by Scott, the IT guy, is back.
Scott, the IT guy. He is back. He's back more than you know.
Well, we love Scott, the IT guy. He's a great dude. He helps me out immensely and has with the production, and he's our technical whiz. Well, he's my technical whiz.
He helps me out too. Look, he got me a new phone.
Ah, beautiful.
Although we had to have a little bit of discussion because he actually got me one of those red phones, which wasn't really red. And look,
it was pink.
It was pretty damn pink, man. I already take enough grief. I already get enough grief with the whole painting thing, and so I didn't need another mark against me. Not that it's really a mark against me, but just another reason and a long number of reasons to goof on Jack.
Yeah. I have a Japanese print on my T-shirt, and he wants to know if it says I'm really big in Japan. Yeah, I am. So what? Scott, the IT guy. And he says, Jack, I'm almost here every week, and the fans are big and faithful. There you go. He's only in it for the hot sauce that he hasn't seen yet. So
hey, Scott, do you want to hear a music story? A music story from this week?
Well, first of all, you ready to do a good show?
I'm ready to do a good show.
There you go. Now we're ready. I want to hear your story.
So I have to tell you, tonight I'm a little fried. So my wife reminded me tonight that I'm not 26 years old. I actually saw 2 shows this week, and talk about polar opposite experiences. So on Wednesday, I joined a friend and his 6-year-old son to see Glass Animals down in Boston. I wasn't totally familiar with this band, knew a little bit about them. Sold out, so the venue that they played at is the Leaders Pavilion, which used to be the Fleet Pavilion, which was the Bank of America Pavilion, which was the blah, blah, blah Pavilion, and so on and so on. But we went down there. Place probably holds, I don't know, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people. And we were in the very last row in the audience. So, my friend, Derek, his son, Henry, Glass Animals is his favorite band. So, his dad got tickets and Derek loves them too, right? It's kind of like a family thing. And we were in the last row, and this poor kid, 6 years old, could not see. Everybody's up and, dancing around and whatnot. And the dad goes to grab a beer, and I grab Henry, and I was like, hey, let's jump in the aisle, right? Let's just see if we can see down the hallway, down the cavern, to see if it opens up a little bit. And he still couldn't see. So I had a little conversation with one of the ushers, chatted, said, hey, it's his first concert, favorite band, talked to her for a little bit. She disappeared for a second, and then she came back and said, follow me. And she walked us down to row 8. 2.
Wow.
Second row. The kid was elated. And my friend Derek was, I don't know how you did that, but I can't thank you enough. And it was great. But there's a couple of things that happen. So number one, when you're far away, you see the lights and the lasers and you see them playing and the music is coming out at you. When you're in the second row, you can kind of see what's going on stage.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me as I was watching these guys that, you know what? These guys don't really know how to play their instruments very well. There was a lot of backing track. There was a lot of programming that was being done. There was a lot of auto-tune that was being done. So I was like, these guys really have a long way to go. Now, this sold-out show, but I mean, it kind of goes to show you the state of music today. Like, I looked around and I said, there's no question in my mind that beyond the security and the concession stands, I am the oldest guy in this audience right now.
Yeah.
It was all young kids, and they were all consumed with just taking selfies and dancing around and whatnot. But to me, lacked substance. Fast forward, last night in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, there's a place called Jimmy's Jazz Club that opened up. Opening night last night, I went with John and Laurie Watkins to see the John DeFrancisco band. So a trio, 3 guys, small room. The lead guy, John DeFrancisco, comes out blowing trumpet. Then he went to saxophone. Then he jumped on the Hammond organ. Then he was scatting jazz-wise. Meanwhile, his other keyboard player was playing guitar. He was playing bass, and the drummer was just wailing away. These guys didn't need lasers. They didn't need lights. They didn't need microphones. They were going crazy, and the musicianship was unbelievable. And just as a fun fact, I looked around, and I was like, ooh, I think I'm the youngest guy in this room right now.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, I mean, just kind of like polar opposites. Old style jazz, it's all about the craft. It's all about kind of knowing how to play, right? And how to improvise. And this other thing was this choreographed, thin facade.
There's a group out there called Milo Green, and that's one of the unique things about them. They're they're a rock band, right? There's 4 of them, I think, and every one of them knows how to play the other one's instrument. So they can switch at any time, and they all sing. It's pretty interesting. You don't usually see that dynamic in a band, But and they're not that bad. They're really not that bad. Yeah. When we were growing up listening to music, because that's all we could do was listen to it, right?
True.
Unless we watched Don Kirshner's rock concert on Saturday night.
Or the Midnight Special.
Midnight Special, yep. With Wolfman Jack, right? So we were kind of learned listeners because we had to read about these bands. We had to, anything we could get our hands on, Cream Magazine, 16 or whatever,
Circus, Rolling Stone.
Yeah, Rolling Stone as we got a little older. Heavy metal. There was a number of magazines or publications, and we learned about these bands that way. Now, how much of it was hype was probably 70% of it because, that stuff sells, But we were educated listeners. Yeah, I see your guitar.
I'm just using it's a prop, man.
It's a prop. That's okay. It's your safety net. It's your blankie.
It's my Linus blankie.
Yes. So we grew up learning about our music, and being cerebral with our music, with reading lyrics, and that's how that's how we learn the lyrics to songs most of the time. Sitting in the beanbag chair, headphones on, staring at the album cover, reading the back, taking out the sleeve, reading the lyrics.
Yeah,
it was a thing. Today, these kids, nope, they are not educated listeners.
No, like a lot of things in our world today, music is somewhat disposable. We used to cherish our music, take care of our records. And when I say cherish our records, people did it in different ways. Some people were crazy, careful with their records and put them in plastic, and other people like to draw on them and like to write their name on them or whatnot. Everybody loved them in different ways, but you're absolutely right. No MTV, no other outlets like that. You had to wait to hear a song on the radio, or you had to buy it on an album.
Or if they came on Soul Train or American Bandstand.
Yeah. But you learned about the band by reading the liner notes and reading the album covers, and you did it. It was active listening. You know what I mean? You were actually looking at that album cover while you were actually listening to the records. You were engaged.
Yeah,
you were absolutely engaged.
And we would talk about these bands nonstop. I mean, I think my whole, I don't know, what was it, 7th grade in junior high school, when they used to call it junior high and not middle school, was dedicated to Kiss. I mean, I brought in the with Kiss Alive. I brought in the what do you call it? The insert. It was like, it had all their pictures. Like, I brought that to school, right? And we talked about these bands to each other. And it wasn't like today's, I don't like that song. Just hit a button, move on. Again, and I always say this, people. So I'm going to touch on what you just said. So my collection of vinyl, which I finally got used to saying the word vinyl, not albums, because it's the only way it gets related today.
No, we didn't say vinyl when we were kids.
We just said records. Our albums. It was either my records or my albums. So it's an assorted collection of collections. It's a collection of assorted collections from different people that, and I know you're always trying to jump to the head of my line. And every one of them is kind of different in how my really good friend who I was stationed with for years in the Air Force, he's out around Northern California, Todd Sockman, sent me his collection. And another guy, Robert Nekoronic, he sent me his collection. And they were impeccable. These albums were kept, and they were treated correctly, and they were put back, and they, no dents, no corners were damaged, right? Then I get something from somebody, in Boston, and it is like, say Richie Farino gave me his. Those records were used and somewhat abused.
He loved them. Them.
Yeah. You just threw them down on the floor like you didn't really, you didn't think they were going to be anything after, and especially after CDs came out, right?
Yeah.
When CDs came out, everyone abandoned their record collections. So they kind of sat, and some of these things they have that smell, that basement smell, or the attic smell on them.
Could be a little musty, could be a little moldy.
Yeah. I think I had maybe a few of them that had a little mold on them, but they always, they found a new home, and they get treated correctly again. I'm nursing them back to health. But yeah, man, kids today, I don't think they're not as educated. They're not as engaged in their music as we were in ours. And by the way, what the hell were you expecting from a group called Glass Animals anyways? I mean, what were you expecting?
Yeah, well, look, I'm not saying they were bad. I'm not saying that they
take everything away. That you take away the background vocal and the this, that, and the all they're added on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think they really were?
Yeah, for me personally, they didn't rank very high. But you know what? They had 5,000, 6,000 screaming fans that were going nuts. And you know what, quite frankly, a lot of the things that you and I talk about in terms of the real talent that you would need to have, and I'm not suggesting that they're not talented, right? But the real, musicianship and whatnot. The kids that were in that audience, they don't give a shit. They don't care.
No.
They don't care. They take what they get from it and they move on. They don't. I'm not sure that 10 or 20 years from now that you can have a podcast like this and talk about different musicians and different production and the way that a concept album came about. Maybe that's short-sighted for me to say that, but I think it would be a little bit more challenging. I think we have a lot more to draw from when we go back to the 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s. There's a lot more to talk about.
It was more interesting, and there was more. It was real personality. It wasn't created personality. Social media.
Yeah.
So if social media was around when, let's just say, 79. Say social media came about in 79 when Some Girls came out, right? The album was already big. It's already one of their biggest selling albums ever. What would it have been like if social media was around back then?
They would have gotten destroyed because of the copyright infringement, the album cover. Certainly.
Well, they got hit on that to begin with. They knew that was coming too. They definitely knew that was coming. Great publicity.
But with social media, it would have been amplified 100 times more. And that there was some controversy with that record beyond the album cover. There were a couple of lyrics, particularly in the song "Some Girls," that people would have gone crazy, over. I'm surprised that they haven't been, criticized and ostracized because of that lyric that
they're
wrote.
Uncancelable. They are uneffing cancelable. You can't cancel the Rolling Stones. And if any song ever made had a chance at being canceled, it's the song "Some Girls."
Oh yeah.
That song would be the public enemy #1 to the cancel culture.
Yeah.
But you can't cancel the Rolling Stones.
You can't, but do the Rolling Stones still have the same relevance for the younger group, younger people today? Did you see the story that was in the news today? So apparently Mick Jagger wandered into this kind of classic shithole bar, and I believe it was in North Carolina, ordered a beer, and there were people there that were actually going to see the Stones, and not one person noticed who he was.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, in all fairness, he had a baseball cap on.
Okay.
The place was a little dark, so.
All right.
I think there are other factors that come to play, but the media had a field day with this, that, somebody who is as iconic and legendary as Mick Jagger, one of the ultimate rock stars in his day, in any day, from my standpoint, was virtually unnoticed. If he had walked into the Littlest Bar, or Jimmy Maggs, or the Winthrop, Elks, he would have been swarmed back in the day. He never would have been able to get out and about like that.
Well, even today, I mean, again, and so how many people came in immediate contact with them? #1, so the waitress, or the waiter, or the bartender, I would say it's because I don't stare at everybody that comes into a bar. Like I don't. Well. Being in law enforcement for 32 years, I look at everybody. I'm always looking, right? It's just part of the training. But normal people that have normal jobs, they don't stare at everybody that walks in a bar, especially if you're going before a show, and everyone's having a good time. And Mick Jagger's what? How old is he now?
70, 76 maybe, 77?
He doesn't look like the Mick Jagger of 79. He's an old man.
He looks more like
the pictures of Steven Tyler, right?
Oh my God, he looks like he should be on the Golden Girls.
Yeah, you see these pictures of Steven Tyler, and you're like, whoa. I mean, it's like people wouldn't recognize him if he didn't want them to recognize him. Although he does have pretty distinguishable features. As does Mick Jagger, but if he's got a hat on and sunglasses, or
the
media just loves making shit up.
And you are right. I think the media definitely kind of rode this story, thought it was an interesting thing. The bar was dark. He had a baseball cap on. It wasn't packed,
right?
So
And
So
do you expect to see Mick Jagger walking into a bar? No.
Yeah, and if you
So
go
it's
in
the
and
best. Yeah, it's the best disguise is being out in the open, right?
yeah, well, he came in not acting like Mick Jagger.
Yeah, and he probably got, he had a driver who probably came up in a regular, whatever, like a Lincoln Town car or something,
So
maybe he didn't.
Here's a question for you. What does Mick Jagger think about all this? Is he like, that's kind of funny. It was a little bit of goof. I can't believe I got away with it. Or does he walk out of there going, I can't believe nobody fucking recognized me?
I don't think Mick Jagger has a Cockney accent, but that's a pretty good Cockney accent. But
Sorry.
No, I don't think he cares at this point.
Was that more Keith?
Yeah, it's more Keith. Yeah, I don't think he cares. All right. Are you back to the 12-minute thing again? You want me to just go off the air?
I'm just trying to improvise a little bit.
Yeah. See, our man Perry Dietovich said Keith Keef
Keith would have been
noticed. Yeah, Keith Richards would be noticed. And I'm sure he'd have no problem telling Mick Jagger, I would be noticed.
Yeah.
So it's the unexpected.
Would they have been noticed if they walked in together?
Yeah. So I was in basic training in 1987. And then I went that was from May, June to July, right? It was 6 weeks. So whatever that. Then I went into the K9 training academy. And U2 was playing in Boston. This was 87, right? I had seen them prior to going in May. We saw the at the Worcester Centrum. What? You're shaking your head.
They didn't play Boston in 87.
88?
92, they played the Zoo TV tour. 87, they played Worcester, Rhode Island, and Foxborough.
I'm not sure about that. Because the story I had was from my brother, and he was there when it happened. So, and I was supposed to fly home. I was supposed to fly home for that concert, and then I was going to fly back to San Antonio. And they changed our schedule. So, and I remember that. I remember I was pissed that I couldn't make it. And I would have broke a couple of rules by flying. I'm still in training status, and I'm flying off to Boston. But he said he was at the channel, and they closed the place, and he was going outside, and he said some young kid was hanging around outside. My brother said, hey, and the channel wasn't in the best part of town.
No.
And the kid said, U2's coming here. So my brother's like, you kidding me? He says, yeah. So he hangs out with the kid, and he said about, 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, you hear these motorcycles driving through, like you hear them coming up the pier, and there's two motorcycles and a limo, and two limos come up behind them, and they pull up in front of the channel, and the motorcycles are revving, and everything parks, and the two guys riding the motorcycle take their helmets off, and it's Larry Mullen and Bono.
Yeah.
So it's
you know what, your timeline could absolutely be right. I mean, look at when they played.
It was probably still the Joshua Tree tour. It was probably came back.
It very well could have. So what you two used to do, and some other bands have done this as well, is they've used Boston as their hub, right? So they would camp out at the Four Seasons.
Okay.
And remember, Worcester is 50 minutes from Boston, right?
Okay,
Foxborough is.
Yeah.
So there's a very good chance that they may have been playing Foxborough, and then they came back to the channel. Lucky your brother, man. I would have loved to have been there.
So he said to him, and my brother couldn't wait to tell me, because back then it was all phone calls and letters, because there was no, FaceTime and cell phones. And he told me that everyone kind of ran up to Bono. There wasn't a lot of people hanging around. And he said to him, my brother said, hey, do you remember when you played Boston and you got on some kid's shoulders on stage? And Bono said, big, like he described, he goes, kind of a big kid? He goes, yeah. He goes, that was my brother. And Bono said, where is he? Is he here? And I wasn't there.
That would have been cool.
I wasn't there. I was in the damn Air Force. And I know my brother didn't make that up because he couldn't make that one up.
Yeah. So I tell you, I bet you 40 years later, I bet you Bono still remembers that.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. It's not something that I'm sure happened a lot, you know. It was a spur of the moment thing. And it of course became it became its own legend amongst us.
How many times do you think you've told that story? It's a great story.
Well, it happened in what year was it?
83.
83.
It was June of 83, Worcester Centrum.
So it was almost 30 years ago, 28 years ago?
Almost 40 years ago.
I mean, 40 years ago? Yeah, 38 years ago. I have probably told that story at least twice a year. More at the beginning. Hundreds of times.
Hundreds. Hey, look, not for nothing. In all honesty, I've probably told that story hundreds of times.
Yeah. And I'm sure
there has been an occasion or two where I actually replaced you with me. Nah, I'm only kidding.
Hey, have at it. Have at it. So let's change directions here. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think of Steppenwolf? What's your take on them? Do they get the credit they deserve, or are they right where they're supposed to be?
You know what? I think that Steppenwolf is a band that 99.9% of the listening public know one, maybe two songs. And I don't think that they've actually ever taken the time to listen to some of the, maybe the deeper cuts that are out there. I thought they were a pretty damn good band. But like our friend Perry is saying, 2-hit wonders, right?
But
Magic Carpet Ride, Born to Be Wild, right? But Born to Be Wild, hugely iconic song that has definitely transcended time.
So there's a couple things with Born to Be Wild. Number one, supposedly that was the origin of the term heavy metal in relationship to music, right?
Yep.
It's just heavy metal thunder. So the story behind that, and I'm sure you know it, maybe you do, maybe you don't. The story behind that is, well, the song was written, then it was getting put on the album, and they had to put writing credits. So the manager of the band was good friends with the keyboard player, because evidently these guys didn't write down like, Jagger and Richards. It was just like, here's the songs. The manager gave the writing credit to Born to Be Wild to the organ player. John Kay evidently didn't realize it at that time and didn't think much of it. But years later, that became a lawsuit, a big bone of contention. I mean, but to this day, that guy still has the writing credit for Born to Be Wild. And he's just the keyboard player.
I've never really understood the way that songwriting credits actually happen. I think a lot of it is a bunch of bullshit. And I'll give you an example. And I think the one that you just provided is a perfect one, because John Kay was absolutely instrumental in that song. And the song would not have been what it was. He's the song, right?
Yes.
So let me give you another example. there's a documentary that's out there right now, and it's been out for a little bit, on Andy Summers of the Police.
Right.
And one of the bones of contention within that band is that the song Every Breath You Take,
Yeah, I know where you're going. Yep.
Andy Summers is the one that came up with that kind of, if you
The
want
riff.
to call it, an iconic riff, right?
Yeah.
That to a lot of people, that's the song. But that song is credited to Sting.
Yep.
Now, so what they say and the way they kind of skirt around it, and what I think is absolute bullshit, is that they give, Andy Summers credit for, helping arrange that song. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get songwriting credit. He doesn't get the monetary benefits of being a part of that. So even if you go back to the Beatles, all of the songs that the Beatles put out that were credited to Lennon and McCartney, you think about the stuff that, George Harrison came up with in terms of his guitar tone, his sound, some of the things that he experimented with, right? Some of the things that Ringo did. Those things aren't recognized. They don't get the monetary credit. Now, listen, most of those guys are doing pretty well and have done pretty well, and probably would not have done as well without the geniuses in the band. But I think the way that a lot of songwriting credits go, I think it's really unfair.
Yeah, there was I saw a discussion with the three of them, and Stuart Copeland basically called Sting out on it, about how he gets the credit for it, etc. And Sting said, "Yeah, I don't hear you complaining from your castle."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the Police, and I don't know if you've ever put these two together, but the Police and Cream are almost identical stories. So both bands were started by the drummer, right? Both bands, three-piece band. The drummer and the lead singer didn't get along because Ginger Baker hated Jack Bruce. That was the reason for the demise of Cream. Then you have the singer. We'll substitute Eric Clapton for lead singer, because him and Jack Bruce kind of split time.
Yeah.
Goes on
true.
to be extremely successful.
Yeah.
And the drummer, who started the band, who pushed it along, ends up, doing okay, but not the glory, not the glory that the lead singers get. So you have Sting goes on to be a total douche, which is that's a fact. That guy is a douche. He really is. So you look at how those two and the drummers were nearly identical in the sense of both classically trained jazz drummers, both played the drums like a jazz drummer, with the right hand holding the drumstick like a spoon and the left hand like a knife,
Yeah. Total jazz drummer. Absolutely.
Yes. Both were classically trained. Stuart Copeland actually followed Ginger Baker's lead and actually went to Africa and learned techniques over there. So,
But both of them amazing drummers in their own right.
I'm telling you, if you ever want to see an unbelievable video of Ginger Baker, go on YouTube and type in "greatest drum solo ever, Ginger Baker." It's in capital letters. It's a 10-minute drum solo. And while he's going through this, they zoom in on his face, and it's like he's drinking a cup of tea, right? He doesn't make all these cringy faces, and not once in that 10 minutes of a drum solo, and we've heard hundreds of drum solos in our life.
Which, by the way, I fucking hate drum solos.
I know you do.
Hate them.
But every rock drum solo goes, then it goes, like it goes down, and it gives the drummer a little bit of. That does not happen once. His footwork was fucking amazing. His footwork was better than some drummers' handwork. That guy was the absolute greatest drummer ever. Ginger Baker, when he'll never get the credit because he wasn't in Led Zeppelin and he wasn't in The Who.
Ginger Baker is pretty highly regarded as a drummer.
Oh, yes, he is. And but actually, what?
I would watch 30 seconds of that video. I hate drum solos.
Oh, and I know you do. I know you do.
Do you remember when we were younger and we would go and see Aerosmith and they would say, "Oh my God, Joey Kramer did a drum solo," and he actually put down his sticks and started playing with his hands. I get news for you, Joey.
It's not original.
Pick up your fucking sticks.
Yeah.
Get the rest of the band out there and play some fucking music, asshole.
Yeah. I think one of the best drum solos I saw was Blue Oyster Cult at the Boston Garden, the Black and Blue tour.
I was at that show.
When he did Godzilla, and the drummer ducks his head back and comes up with a Godzilla head on. It was actually, I was a senior in high school. This is 1981, right? So you got to think, how cool is it? The guy just kind of comes up, he's playing the drum solo in Godzilla with the Godzilla helmet, like big Godzilla head on.
Okay,
the
that's
show
cool.
Was good. The show was good.
That's cool, but it illustrates the point that the only thing that was interesting about that drum solo was that he was wearing a fucking rubber mask.
Look at when you're at the concert and you're shit faced, you don't care. It's testosterone flying everywhere.
No. Anytime that I start hearing, "Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Van Halen," I'm like, all right, I'm going to pee.
Yeah, because you lacked testosterone back then.
No. It's just boring. Boring.
Do you have low T levels, Jack? Did you have low T levels when you were 15?
No.
Did you suffer from low T?
Do you suffer from low testosterone?
Listen, all I'm saying is, watch that video, not for the drum solo, but just to watch his...
No.
Okay, podcast listeners and live stream viewers. Go to YouTube and watch that video. An interesting thing, Ginger Baker, John Bonham played with Led Zeppelin, right? Ginger Baker played with Cream, Blind Faith, Fela Kuti in Africa.
Love Fela Kuti.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. And
No. Nominated.
He didn't get in?
Nope, he did not get in.
He should be.
Absolutely.
Fela Kuti. Ginger Baker played with Public Image Limited.
Mm-hmm.
So, come on, this guy can cover it all. I don't think John Bonham or Keith Moon had the talent to be that diverse in sound. And he kind of dogged John Bonham. He says John Bonham, his quote was, he doesn't know how to swing. And Perry Dietovich said, Ginger Baker once said John Bonham couldn't swing a sack of shit. He said he couldn't swing, but Charlie could, meaning Charlie Watts.
Charlie could.
He said Bonham, he had some sort of cricket or soccer or some sport reference where he said a 10 is like the ultimate. He said, I achieved 10. John Bonham achieved 4 out of 10. He said, which is above average, but he kind of says he's nothing really to him. He doesn't have, and remember, Keith Richards said that about Bonham. Mick Jagger said that about Bonham. Pete Townsend said that about Bonham. Bonham was great to us. He was great to us as fans, right? We were all, Led Zeppelin and In the Levee Breaks, and he was a great, one of the greats. But I don't think he was as great as everybody puts him on the pedestal to be the greatest drummer ever.
No, John Bonham was a great rock drummer. The difference is, if you think about like the origins of rock and roll, and the drummers that really were interesting, they were jazz guys.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason that Charlie could swing was Charlie was a jazz guy, right?
He had his own jazz band. Cool, right?
He could actually bring other influences into the music and kind of elevate it beyond what it was. And again, I'm not tearing down John Bonham. John Bonham obviously was a great drummer, but John Bonham did his thing, but he couldn't do anything beyond his thing.
And he was in Led Zeppelin.
Never heard of him.
Exactly, right?
Hack band.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Oh, well, you did kind of, we can go back to the Led Zeppelin episode. You weren't really, you weren't 100% on them.
I love Led Zeppelin, but there's, again, there's the whole plagiarism thing, which a lot of people did back in the day. And it wasn't really more about Led Zeppelin. It was about Jimmy Page, that I thought was a sloppy live player. Yeah, you gotta remember that there's a good part of that time that he was on, heroin.
He was on the smack. He was
on
riding
the
white pony. He was on the horse.
Look, even me holding up my guitar, I would not be able to play this well if I was chasing the brown dragon. So that's
pony, as
that's the thing. My guitar is the thing that keeps me out of the abyss, out of the heroin smack addicted abyss.
So let's switch to totally different topic. Unplugged, right? So Unplugged. There's a couple different stories on the origin of where MTV Unplugged came from. One of them I know. Huh?
I think I know one of them.
Which one?
So I think at least they claim credit for it. I think it was the 1987 MTV Music Awards where John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora did a version of Wanted Dead or Alive. And they do kind of claim credit for kind of starting the Unplugged craze, if you want to call it that.
There was another story. I can't remember it offhand, but there was another same kind of scenario, another group. But so the pilot episode, and I think I've told you this, do you know who played the pilot episode of Unplugged?
I don't think I know that. I know initially it was actually a hosted show. There was a guy by the name of Jules Shear who was a fool. Yeah, exactly. That hosted it. The one that I remember, there was kind of a dual episode. It was an early one, and it was an episode of it was Joe Satriani and Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I don't think that was the first one.
No, the very first MTV Unplugged was done by, of all bands, Squeeze.
Oh, I bet it was really good. So those guys can play.
They showed up with their instruments, and the producer's like, "What are you doing?" They said, "We're going to play." They said, "This is Unplugged." They said, I think it was Jules Holland might have said it, like, "What the fuck is Unplugged?" Like, they thought it was just the name of a show. They're like, "It's acoustic." He says, "I didn't bring in." I always forget the guitar player's name.
Glenn Tilbrook.
Glenn Tilbrook and Difford.
Chris Difford.
Chris Difford. So the producer's like, "God damn it." He runs to his office and grabs an acoustic guitar and just hands it to either Tilbrook or Gifford.
Probably Glenn Tilbrook.
Yeah. And he's like, "Play your songs with this." So when you go back and watch that, going into that show, they had no idea that they were going to be doing this. And I was a Squeeze fan, right? So it was a great show. So I'm going to ask you, what are your top 5 Unplugged episodes?
Okay.
I know it's kind of off the top of your head, but
no. I think I can do this
in order, from 5 to 1.
All right. 5 to 1. I would say that.
And 1 to 5. No one here gets out alive. I had to say it.
Oh, you're an idiot.
I got you.
Uh,
Go on.
Pearl Jam.
Number 5, Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam's I thought was really good. Number 4, this one's going to surprise you, but I actually thought it was pretty good. Bryan Adams. I know.
Okay, keep going.
Number 3, the Stevie Ray Vaughan performance.
Yeah.
And the reason why I picked the Stevie Ray Vaughan performance, because in the early days of Unplugged, it was truly, truly unplugged. He didn't have a bass player with him. He didn't have a drummer. They weren't doing their songs without microphones. He was actually playing his stuff on an acoustic guitar. So it was stripped down. It was bare. It was bold. He had to improvise. It was different. That was the thing that I thought was really cool about it. Let's see. Beyond that, I have 2 left, right?
3. You have Pearl Jam. Oh yeah, 2 left. Bryan Adams. I can't believe you squeezed Bryan Adams in between. That will never happen again.
I'm telling you,
Bryan Adams falls between Pearl Jam and Stevie Ray.
I thought it was really good. I did like the 10,000 Maniacs. I thought was pretty good. I think the best one that was ever done. I'm sorry, I know it's kind of cliche. Nirvana. The Nirvana performance was unbelievable. I mean, it just showed the range of that band. It showed the ability. They connected. I just think that episode was. I actually think it's probably, if you rank all of the Nirvana albums, it's in the top 3.
Nirvana is disqualified.
Why?
It wasn't a true Unplugged.
What does that mean?
Did you ever listen to The Man Who Sold the World?
Yeah. So we put a little effects on his guitar.
Disqualified. You're out. That is a fake Unplugged. Am I lying? Do they have an electric guitar in an Unplugged TV show?
I think that there were a lot of the unplugs in the latter part.
Yeah, I did it.
How fucking dare you interrupt me, you motherfucker?
Ooh,
oh,
2 F-bombs in 10 seconds.
Wait a minute. Perry actually brought up a good one. The Kiss Unplugged is really good.
Horrible.
No,
horrible.
it's really good.
Horrible.
No,
I'd rather watch the LL Cool J Unplugged than the Kiss Unplugged.
Ah, come on.
No, there is no come on. So let me get back to the point.
Wait a minute. What would you rather watch? The Kiss Unplugged or a bunch of drum solos from YouTube?
Drum solos.
Oh, by the way, if you want to go, the Maxwell Unplugged was really good.
So was the Run DMC one. All right.
You know what? I'll tell you, cliche. A lot of people give shit, but the Eric Clapton one was actually really good.
Yeah. Again, helicopter crash. Stevie Ray Vaughan should have been Eric Clapton.
You are a mean mother alpha.
It is what it is, man.
But you know what? My favorite songs on the Eric Clapton Unplugged are like the old blues ones. Like he plays Malted Milk and he plays what's the other one that he actually plays? Walking Blues.
So a couple songs that no one's ever heard.
Yeah, but that's why I love him, because I know those old blues songs, and I thought that he did a great version. I'm not so keen on Tears in Heaven or even the acoustic version of Layla.
If I never hear that version of Layla again, it'll be too soon. That's a song. You want to talk about a song that needs to just go away? That version of that song needs to just go the F away. All right, I have my 5, and
it's probably yours is probably better because you got to research it.
I don't do research. This is all off the top of my head.
You are a lying sack of shit. This is,
I'm telling you,
audience. This reading of his top 5 is not unplugged.
I can name them. So number 5 would be Squeeze. It was a great Unplugged, right? Number 4 would be 10,000 Maniacs was a very good Unplugged. It still kind of stands the test of time too. That is still a good CD to this day. And Natalie Merchant had just one of those unique voices. Somebody said, a friend of mine, huh?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Interrupt me in the middle of my list.
Natalie Merchant. So my wife and I, the beautiful and lovely Deb.
Are you hijacking my list? Okay.
I'm not hijacking you.
All right,
no.
Go ahead,
all I want to
tell
say
the story.
Is my wife. There are some singers that get under my wife's skin, and Natalie Merchant is one of them. Much to my dismay, she actually equates Natalie Merchant's voice to Marvin the Martian on the Warner Brothers cartoons. I claim this planet in the name of Mars. Isn't that wonderful? These are the days.
I don't see it, but okay, I don't hear it. But
yeah,
somebody had said, a friend of mine, Renee Torchy, she had some years back, Facebook, I'm going to see, I said something about 10. She goes, I'm going to see 10,000 Maniacs. And I said, Natalie Merchant isn't with them anymore. And she's like, kind of like, so it's 10,000 Maniacs. I'm like, 10,000 Maniacs without Natalie Merchant it's like Stone Temple Pilots without Scott Weiland.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not, it wouldn't work for me. It wouldn't work for me. But, you know, they went and they enjoyed it. Yeah. So, all right, moving on. Number 3, an outstanding unplugged with Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, good one. Good one.
So I was working concert security when I was stationed in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Concerts would come to town, and a couple of my buddies we were cops on base, and a couple of buddies like, hey, let's go sign up for security. We'll see free concerts, right? So I always ended up at the stage, right, for the stage divers, you know, in the pit, right before that place where kids get crushed on, you know, up in front. And I was there for the Stone Temple Pilots. And in the middle of the show, they finish the song, then it kind of gets dark. And at the top of all of a sudden the spotlight hits the top of the auditorium, and something starts coming down from the ceiling. And it's this huge, round living room. Couches, chair, like a couch, a love seat, a chair, like a table in the middle. It's plush. Everything, to quote, you know, it's plush.
Plush, right? Yeah. No pun intended.
No pun intended. So they all grabbed like a couple acoustic guitars, and Weiland sits in the chair, and they did like 4 or 5 acoustic songs on that like makeshift living room. Dude, it was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was fun. And then they kicked, you know, when the thing went up, and then they kicked it into full gear again. So that would be my number 3.
So before you get to your number 2, I just need to make the comment that Stone Temple Pilots, dreadfully underrated band. Popular band.
Aren't they though?
Popular band, but they were so much better than people give credit for.
Yeah.
Scott Weiland was one of the great front men in rock and roll history.
I've said that for decades. That guy, I saw him in that show, and he was all over the place. That guy was a true showman. He came out in a polyester suit, like a 70s, with bell bottoms and like 6-inch, you know, platform shoes, and a polyester jacket with the V-neck, you know, with the big polyester shirt. Like, and that was the whole show. He was all over that. And the guy could move. Like, he didn't move like Jagger. He had his own style. He had his own movement. I mean, the guy was just a true to life great frontman. And unfortunately, he died in a trailer. He was living in a trailer when he died. So how does that happen?
Yeah.
Drug addict. Right?
Yep.
So going down to number 2, Alice in Chains is
good one.
That is an amazing. If you go song for song, between Alice in Chains Unplugged and I'll give you Nirvana, Alice in Chains is a better Unplugged, song for song. Go back and listen to it. It is.
No,
it is.
Look, I can't argue with you. I totally forgot about that one, and it should have come up because that, and again, it's funny that you actually kind of dovetailed Stone Temple Pilots and Alice in Chains because almost the same story. I mean, such a tragic,
Lane Staley.
sad with Lane Staley. I mean, such a brilliant band, and yet again, another band that was dreadfully underrated. I mean, not that they weren't popular; they were very, very popular. But that band was.
They were always number 3. They were always
ferocious.
number 3.
Yeah, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. Actually, maybe even
Alice
number 4. Maybe even
Soundgarden.
number 4. Yeah.
I think they were more popular than Soundgarden. I
don't think so. Nope.
Again, hey, listen, I'm with you. They could flip-flop those two also. Absolutely. I think
I used to say that Alice in Chains was the 90s version of Black Sabbath.
Alice in Chains?
You just kind of had that dark undertone.
I would probably compare Soundgarden more, but hey, listen, however you perceive it, that's I can't argue with that.
You can't argue with that.
All right, now I'm going to fucking argue it because that's a stupid comment made by a stupid person. Stupid.
You know who's stupid?
Not me, you. You're stupid. No, you're stupid.
You're a giant stupid head.
You're stupid in music. Music, stupid guy. All right, and my number one, and this was an electric, only in the sense of watching it and just being totally entertained from start to finish. Pearl Jam. That Unplugged
is great.
Eddie Vedder is intense, like absolutely intense.
Yep.
There was no coolness. Like he was, you could see it on his face, his body language. Him sitting in that stool was like he was a caged tiger in a sense.
He was all in, man.
And he was young and he was ready to go back then, but that is an electric Unplugged, and every song on it is great. And it's truly no Nirvana, electric guitar in the background, just because. And the only reason that Nirvana Unplugged, I think, shot up so far and so fast. Now it's a good Unplugged, but it happened. It came out. It was recorded a week before Kurt Cobain killed himself.
Oh, I don't know if it was that close.
Yeah, it was a week or a month, but they had that, and I don't even know if it had aired yet.
Listen, I think that's one of them that actually holds up. I mean, I think
it does hold up. Yeah,
it's kind of a testament to that band. And by the way, just for the record, bringing up Squeeze and Stone Temple Pilots and Alice in Chains, I'm absolutely embarrassed that I brought up Bryan Adams now.
And I'm going to give you a chance to correct that because that's the kind of guy I am.
Well, I would absolutely knock Bryan Adams out and put in either the Stone Temple Pilots, and I don't mean put it in like the 4th spot or wherever it was. I mean those performances were right up there. I'm running on fumes right now, so I just didn't think of it.
All right, so listen, we're going to get to we're over an hour, so let's get to this day in music. So this is being recorded. Let's say October 1st.
It's this day in music.
October 1st, right? 1956. After a test audience gave a negative reaction to Elvis Presley dying at the end of the film Love Me Tender, the King was called back to reshoot the scene in the new ending, A Hero Lived. All right. On this day in 1965, Bob Dylan appeared at Carnegie Hall in New York City. He introduced his new touring band on this tour, made up of guitarist Robbie Robertson, organist Garth Hudson, bassist Rick Danko, pianist Richard Manuel, and drummer Lee Von Helm. Great voice.
Great voice.
They will become known as simply the band. On this day in 1966, Jimi Hendrix appeared live for his first time in the UK when he jammed with Cream at their gig at the London Polytechnic. Hendrix made his official UK live debut a month later on Friday, 25th November. On Friday, November 25th, 1966, when the Jimi Hendrix Experience appeared at the Bag O' Nails Club in London, Ginger Baker said Jimi Hendrix was good, but Eric Clapton was better. And this day in 1967, Rolling Stones. The thieves broke into Mick Jagger's London flat in England and stole jewelry and furs belonging to his then girlfriend,
Marianne Faithfull.
Good man. On this day in 1970, Jimi Hendrix was buried at the Greenwood Cemetery at the Dunlop Baptist Church in Seattle. Among the mourners, Miles Davis, Eric Burdon, great voice, Johnny Winter, and members of Derek and the Dominos. On this day in 1977, Elton John became the first musician to be honored into New York City's Madison Square Garden Hall of Fame. On this day in 1982, John Cougar went to number 1 on both the U.S. album and singles chart with the album
Scarecrow.
American Fool.
That's what
82.
I meant.
You are tired.
I am
and
tired.
The single Jack and Diane. On this day, I'm going to give you a pass on that one.
I wasn't listening. I'm
You're
sorry.
falling asleep on your guitar.
No, I'm not.
buddy.
I'm not.
3 more minutes. Give me 3 more minutes, and you're not doing the second live stream. I know
wait,
that.
Wait a minute. You sound like me talking to Deb. Come on, give me 3 more minutes.
Okay.
By the way, just for the record, in case you were waiting for it, there will probably be no Glass Animals Unplugged.
On this day in 1983, David Bowie World Convention was held at the Cunard Hotel in London. The event had the largest collection of Bowie merchandise ever assembled. Lots of people walking around in red wigs, I'm sure. In the creepy department, in the absolutely fucking creepiness department, on this day in 1994, the Daily Mirror in the UK printed a photo of Michael Jackson in a Scoutmaster's uniform along with 5 young Boy Scouts.
Ugh.
A Boy Scouts leader later made a statement saying that Jackson had no association with the organization. Creepy. Little did they know.
By the way, but because you actually mentioned him, actually the Bob Dylan Unplugged is actually pretty good.
Anyways, I'd rather watch Bryan Adams.
Hey, the guy's a legend.
Okay. And on this day in 2004, Canadian bassist Bruce Palmer died of a heart attack. He was a member of the Minor Birds in the Buffalo Springfield. He also worked with Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young and Neil Young.
Yes, he did.
On this day in 2007, Radiohead's official website crashed after the band announced that their new album,
In Rainbows.
Good man, I knew you're back. Jack's back. Would only be available to order via their website. Fans could pre-order the download at any price they chose or pay £40, which is like $80, for a disc box, which included 2 CDs, 2 records, plus artwork and booklets.
There's a band that could pull off an Unplugged.
Oh, absolutely.
How good would that be?
That would be unbelievable. Okay, and finally, on this day in 2015, this is interesting. On this day in 2015, an original tape of the Beatles performing at the Cavern Club in Liverpool in 1962 was found after 50 years in a desk drawer. It was in somebody's desk drawer. It featured the Fab Four playing Some Other Guy in September 1962. 4 weeks before their debut single came out, it was recorded after the group were filmed for Granada TV's Know the North, but was never broadcast.
Interesting.
That's unbelievable. Sitting in somebody's drawer. Oh, Jesus. And as far as who was born on this day, no one of any interest. So, with that, Scott the IT guy who says, first of all, Jack's nickname should be the conductor because he spent so much time derailing the conversation. Boom, boom. There it is. All right. Now you can play because we're doing the outro. All right. Scott, the IT guy who's back in action, sends me my outro every week. So, another great podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to buy not just some hot sauce, but some great white hot sauce. Make sure you like and subscribe and have yourselves a great night. Jackie boy, I am relieving you of duty. I know you're tired. You won't be doing my next live stream at 9 o'clock.
Yes, I will. I'm staying, goddammit.
Oh, that's my boy. That's my boy. I'm a busy guy doing all my live streams. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, you podcast listeners. We truly appreciate you. You are the engine that moves this vehicle. Without you, we'd be dead in the water. So if you like the podcast, share it. Tell your friends about it. And let's see. I can never leave on time. Fix your title, too. What's wrong with my title? What is he talking about? Scott the IT guy, we could have went out on a good note. Scott the IT guy has to ruin it.
He's an asshole. Fuck
What's
him.
my title? It says Milk Crates and Turntables Podcast. Unless he wants us to change the name of the show. All right, on that note, we'll talk. We'll see you guys next episode. Thanks for listening.